SEC Media Days, day one is in the books, and some new recruiting rankings are out.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. Want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks to everybody for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. I'm coming at you live from Salt Lake City. And by the way, Jimmy, when I flew in today, okay,
your arms must be tired.
So yesterday we had a whole emergency pod on the Nick Saban stuff that Greg McElroy brought up, right? That's probably all pretty much bunk, but it was worthy of discussion in so much as Greg McElroy thought it was worthy of bringing up because he talked to somebody, whoever that somebody is. Now,
well said.
Secondly, I had to do it from a Sky Club, a Delta Sky Club in Atlanta, and my audio was bad, and I apologize for that. Now, I think I got it fixed about 1/10 of the way through, but some people said something about it. Hopefully, the audio is now better. Thirdly, when I was on the plane,
it's not an excuse. Some people need to realize sometimes when we're traveling, it's not exactly a studio that goes with us, and
Right.
And things won't always be perfect. In a emergency, situation where we've just got to figure out how to get on live with you guys.
Thirdly, so I'm sitting on the plane, and one of the flight attendants, a male flight attendant, like he keeps sort of janking with everybody who's wearing some other SEC shirt. Like a girl walks on, and I noticed this, and like a girl walks on with a Mississippi State shirt, and he's like, get off the plane or something, and he's like, I'm an LSU fan. And then they sort of talk for a minute and move on. Since a Georgia fan comes on, he's like, you got the wrong hat on, and whatever. But I'm like, I'm not going to start up anything with that. Sometimes I get playful. I get catty. But I didn't do that. Well, as I'm on the plane, I start doing some Locked On Bama stuff. He sees my computer screen open, and he goes, wait a minute, I know the Locked On LSU people. He said, I watch them all the time. I said, well, me and my friend, we do.
Isn't it Caroline Fenton? Is it?
Well, no, it was. It's Matt Moscana now.
Matt Moscana, that's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Captain, keeping up with all things Locked On Jimmy Stein. But then he said,
I can name the Vandy guy, Corey.
He said, so he goes back somewhere for a minute, and he comes back, and he's like, you are that guy. My friend said he watches you every day. And I was like, I knew I was. I didn't. Thanks for the confirmation. But so we're even reaching the friendly skies here, which I appreciate.
How about that? 36,000 feet.
Day one of SEC Media Days in the books. Outside of the Nick Saban stuff, was there anything you took away from it that was a big deal?
I think a lot. I mean, in terms of, I watch every minute, multiple channels. I love it. It just feels like the start of football season, to me, getting those guys. I thought Brian Kelly was making a concerted effort to be charming, which was kind of, I thought his whole appearance was a little strange to me. He was making a concerted effort to be a little jokey and charming, but I took it as some real confidence. He basically said beating Clemson in game one is vitally important to him, and he normally has not in his career made much of one game, especially an opener. But he is in this instance. I think LSU has lost, I think, 5 openers in a row. Doesn't want to make it 6, and you could just tell Brian Kelly has some real confidence in his team, and I learned even more about LSU starting 22. That will be helpful, I think, throughout this season. I thought that Shane Beamer was also very confident about his South Carolina team. He does not expect them to back up. He expects them to contend. And I thought Lane Kiffin had the quietest confidence of all about his Ole Miss team,
did.
Making a point that I like about how football plays out a funny way. And he says, last year's team was really good. He said, we actually won more games the year before, but last year's team was better than the year before. You can't always judge it on the number of wins. As he pointed out, all of Ole Miss's wins were by double digits. All of their losses were by one score. They were 0-3 in games decided by one score. The year before, they were 4-1 in games decided by one score. And he talked about how close in this league the difference between winning and losing is. And basically as a way of saying, hey, maybe my team, maybe my starting 22 isn't quite as good as it was a year ago, but we could win more games because all we need to do is make the one or two plays to win that we didn't last year in the big games. And then I looked over schedules and, we'll get to it at the end of the week. I'm going to make official predictions myself by the end of this week in terms of how I think the league's going to play out. Luke, I'm telling you, this is going to be quite the controversy. I think I'm leaning towards, I haven't decided, won't decide till Thursday, Friday, thinking I'm going to pick the winner of this league to finish 7-1 in the conference, and there to be a 5-way tie at 6-2. Second spot in Atlanta, which is fascinating because that means which one of those 5 goes to Atlanta, which one of the 5 doesn't go to the playoff? Because, they're all 6 teams going to the playoff. That just seems unlikely. But I'm telling you, parity is here, or at least increased parity, and it's going to show itself in the SEC in particular. There'll be a lot of cannibalization going on, and it's just going to be very difficult to win road games. That's including Alabama, who has a very difficult 4-game SEC road schedule.
And I thought Greg Sankey also was he was catty. He was like, well, maybe the Big Ten and us don't see eye to eye on everything. He said they want the automatic qualifiers. We kind of dig the 5-11 model now. And he goes, if we can't work it out, we got 12 already. Maybe we'll just keep it at that.
That was news too. That was newsy to me.
I thought that was
we'll
very
just stick
newsy.
at 12. We can't work it out. We're cool with just sticking like it is.
I mean, he was drawing a line in the sand. There's no doubt about it. Now, the other thing that came out, I don't know. I mean, it's not coincidental, but I don't know that it was announced at SEC Media Days per se. But Netflix is going to have a docu-series on the SEC. Now, this is going to be like a Hard Knocks kind of thing, right? But maybe not that much access to practices and whatever. But this isn't a review of things from last year. This is more about getting ready for this year and then moving on into this year, right?
I don't know all the details. I just know that this is going to the Netflix series that this is similar to have been extremely well received. And what I'm referring to is that PGA Tour show they do.
Hang on. Let me stop you. I do want you to talk about that. I was wrong. They are talking more about the 2024 season.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Now, again, I've been traveling, so I hadn't read that part yet, but I pulled it up as I was talking about it because I was like, this will be cool, sort of like a Hard Knocks thing. It's less Hard Knocks and more, as in Hard Knocks gets you ready for the upcoming season. This is going to talk about last year. So get ready for a buttload of Bama Vandy.
Yeah, because that does tend to move the needle for everybody that's not an Alabama fan. I'll just say that what I was saying, which still remains true, Netflix sports shows like the one they do on the PGA Tour and the one that's airing right now about NFL quarterbacks, those are extremely well received, well put together shows that are very popular with viewers. Viewers like them. So I would imagine this will be very good because the other Netflix similar shows have also been very good. And as we know, college football is rich in storylines and fan fervor, and there's a lot to talk about. I would be, we're so much closer to the start of the 2025 season. I'm with Luke. I would prefer this be a Hard Knock style look at fall camps, because I prefer to talk about this upcoming year. And I'm not just being an Alabama fan going, oh, last year sucked. I just mean, I know what happened last year. I mean, I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure I'd watch and enjoy it. I would just enjoy more about previewing 2025 and what's going on in fall camps now, as opposed to rehashing the games where we know ultimate outcomes.
Yeah. And if it is about 2024, number one, I would have appreciated it.
Yeah, maybe back in March or back in March or April. Don't get me this close to the new season and then say, look what happened last year.
And also, Netflix, why you want to bring up old stuff? We want to move on. I can tell you that. Bama fans want to move on.
Did you see Diego Pavia's tuxedo today?
I did not. I'm going to have to look at that.
I wasn't a fan. And yeah, I'll comment on the fashion. Some of them look sharp. Garrett Nussmeier looked like $1 million today. Lenore Sellers looked great today.
His coat, because he held it open. I was on a plane, so I didn't get to see. And a lot of the stuff that I would normally be watching. And I watched a movie called The Amateur, and it was just not very well done. Yeah,
that's got the Bohemian Rhapsody Freddie Mercury guy, right? As a CIA nerd, but he's got to go avenge his wife's death. It would have been a much cooler story if it were Freddie Mercury in the CIA. I can tell you that. I would watch that.
J. Edgar Hoover and Freddie Mercury in
good one.
The Amateurs. Yeah. All right.
Good one.
So let me tell everybody about Game Time.
Game Time.
Because, hey, look, that was another thing I couldn't do when I was in the Sky Club. I was like, I feel weird saying Game Time. There were all these people around me, so I didn't do it. But we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever before. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to the show time. And you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling, trying to find your best deal, Game Time's Zone Deals will be the best bet for you, and they will get you the best seats in the section you want. That's just what Game Time does. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word. For $20 off your first purchase, terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word. For $20 off, download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. And then once again, it's a Jimmy Stein guarantee. I forgot to put the Game Time banner up. That's my bad, y'all. But y'all, surely
we directed somebody on Twitter to Game Time the other day. High recommend. 2 thumbs up. Game Time.
So the new rankings have come out, recruiting rankings, and On3 tried to explain it because On3 and Rivals have merged, and they were like, okay, these are the Rivals rankings, but it's really On3 doing them, and
they're labeled Rivals. They're labeled Rivals rankings.
Yeah,
but it's the On3 staff. It's their rankings. In other words, Charles Power. If y'all keep up with it, Charles Power and his people who did all the rankings for On3, continuing to do the rankings just under the Rivals banner.
Yeah, and which it does seem a little weird, but whatever. Okay, a few things. And again, this is from BOL explaining it. The new ranking is the On3 team doing this under the Rivals banner. Okay. Yeah. So that's really it. Now, there weren't a lot of huge movements when it concerns Alabama. There are currently only 12 5-stars per Rivals. The industry has 32, but Rivals only has 12, which I can kind of get down with that. But since it's sort of like the way Auburn's recruiting right now. I understand what you're doing, but everybody else is doing it this other way. I would recommend you do it this other way. So,
I like what Rivals, formerly On3, is doing just simply because of this. If you have 32 5-stars today, by the time the rankings are out, you're going to take away a 5th star from someone. You're going to take away 5 stars, the 5th star, from a handful of players as players move up and move back. They don't like naming someone a 5-star and then taking it away. They're like, nope, once we give somebody a 5th star, it's theirs to keep. So we're going to be completely sold before we do the 5th star for player. And I like that because it's to me more ethical way of doing it, or a more humane way of doing it by saying, yeah, you didn't change. You didn't do anything wrong, but we are taking this 5th star away from you because we decided we like someone else more. I don't like it.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm fine with Rivals doing it that way. Alabama does now have the second most top 100 commitments in the Rivals update. They have 8. Georgia's got 9. 4 other schools have 6. So Alabama's got 2 more than the tied for third place team, which is, one of them's Notre Dame. By the way, this Rivals update heavily favored some Notre Dame dudes. I'm not saying it was biased or anything like that. I'm just saying this old Notre Dame we used to know, where it was like, whichever, in 2012, whichever team wins the SEC title game is going to take turns kicking Notre Dame in the teeth. That Notre Dame's not going to be around anymore. No. They've got dudes. So
Marcus. Yeah, shout out to Marcus Freeman. He's proving, and he put Notre Dame in the championship game last year. And to me, that means, I know he's new to college football and he's just having this job, and not a lot of people knew him, and he hasn't won quote titles. I still think it's fair to rank him really high right now in terms of who the best coaches in the sport are, because he did get his team to the championship game. It's not like we're making a projection here. I think he's doing a heck of a job. I'm with Luke 1,000,000%. Notre Dame is a year or so away from having a roster 1 through 85 that rivals anybody's.
Yep.
They're recruiting really well. The thing that surprises me about their recruiting is that Notre Dame is being so aggressive in this NIL and rev share era, because I'm not sure that really fits, but boy, they're aggressive in the NIL and rev share space.
By the way, Notre Dame will be at their peak, if the recruiting keeps going this way, about the time they rotate on our schedule.
Of course.
So just letting
you know. Of course. I got Notre Dame in the playoff this year. I mean, I'm working on that. I've got three teams I've already decided are in the playoff, and this week I'm deciding which SEC teams I'm adding.
Okay, so Alabama doesn't have any rivals 5 stars, none in the top 12, but they do have 5 industry 5 stars with Jaira Edwards, who, by the way, is like number 87 in this rivals ranking, and I think that's one that's got me scratching my head.
What's so funny is Tim Watts, who now is he loves Jaira. He loves Jaira Edwards. Jaira Edwards like his favorite kid.
Yeah,
it's going out, and it's driving him nuts that his company has him so much lower. I think him and Charles have probably gone round and round about that. If I know.
Yeah, he's also got Xavier Griffin. I mean, the 5 stars. Xavier Griffin also is a 5-star. Cedarian Morgan and Jordan Edmonds. And Xavier Crowell is now number 25, and so I guess he's an industry 5-star too. So there's
he's an industry 5-star, and put it this way. I know they don't have that 5th star, but if you're ranked in the top 32 by rivals, then you're a 5-star. They're just not going to give you that 5th star until the rankings are final. But they're going to have 32 5-stars at the end. They do every time. They'll have 32 by the end.
The biggest jumper was Chris Booker, who went from number 212 to number 115. Good for him. And then Jamarian Matthews went from 64 to 32, so he cut his ranking. So technically, he's not a 5-star. Yeah.
That's stunning, too. And if anything, hey, I got to be honest here, because I always talk about our guys underranked. I think that's a little high for Matthews. And I'm just saying that because I'm not all our guys are underranked. We don't get enough respect. I'll tell you, I think that's a little high for him. Not super high. I think he should be around 80 to 90.
Well, so you thought he was high when he was at 64.
Yeah. I think 80 to 90. And this is just why what we're going to be asking him to do at Alabama is different than what he's going to be asked to do in high school. So we haven't seen him play that spot yet. And I do think how good he is at Alabama depends a little bit on how his body grows. And we don't know that. Now, we can project that, and Alabama's projected it, and we can feel good about it, but it's just a reason not to rank him super high. That's just me, although 80 to 90 is super high, as you all know that listen to the show every day. To me, if you're a top 100 player, you're a blue-chip prospect that anyone should take, and I put him in that category for sure. So I'm not dissing the guy. I'm just saying I don't know about 30s or 40s. That just seems really high for me.
All right, so if Jamarian Matthews gets the Bama bump, Nolan Wilson gets the Bama drop, because he went from 44 to 70, and I'm sort of like, I feel like I'm like you. I almost feel like those two should be flipped. And I'm not trying. I'm like you. I'm not.
I'm higher
on anybody. I'm
higher on Nolan Wilson because he's already got a bigger body than Matthews. I think Nolan Wilson's almost certainly going to be bigger. I even think Nolan Wilson's going to be an interior player at the next level. And is he probably listed as an edge guy by most of those sites?
Let me just pull it up real quickly.
Because to me, he's a defensive tackle to me.
I think so too.
But
he's listed as a D lineman by Rivals, at least.
Yeah.
Well,
I get it. And he's also, I've mentioned this before. I find this fascinating. If you look at tape of Jamarian Matthews, Kamarian Johnson, Nolan Wilson, and J.J. Finch, they all play outside in high school. Many of them are going to play in the interior in college, which to me make them just fantastic prospects because they're such high-end athletes to be playing on the interior at the next level. But they all play outside rush defensive end, like a 4-3 end in high school. All of them do. I find that very interesting. But hey, it's kind of what you want, right? Because that's where your most athletic kids line up. You want them rushing the passer.
And then one other recruiting note that doesn't have anything to do with this. I mean, Tank Jones is number 18 in the Rivals ranking. He would still technically be a 4-star in Rivals, but he's a 5-star across the board, as we know. The Oregon, I think On 3 site, did a mock class for Oregon, and they had Tank in the class. Now, I think that's more wishful thinking, and also the Oregon moderator being like, well, we've lost out on a few other dudes, so we might put all of our eggs in the Tank Jones basket. Certainly could happen. I'm not saying it's improbable. No, it is improbable, but I'm not saying it's impossible.
Yeah, I'd put Oregon. I don't rule it out. Yeah, I'd put him third too. I don't rule it out. I'm not saying he's not going to Oregon. He may very well go to Oregon, but I would say third. And if Alabama loses out on Tank, I think it's more likely to A&M. But
I agree, and it's sort of like when the weatherman says, got a 15% chance of showers tomorrow, and then it rains. Everybody goes, what do you know? Well, I told you it might. There's a 15%, not zero.
There's a way to take that as in 15% of the viewing area is going to get wet. I mean, you can look at it that way, right? Yeah. I'm sure that's not exactly how it works, but you can look at it that way.
Yeah, I don't know how the weather works.
I don't. I took like a weather class at Alabama, and it was one of my favorite classes. And at the time I was taking the class, I knew quite a bit about the weather, but now I've forgotten it all. So now I don't remember.
Just you sticking your tongue in your mouth and then going out and putting it up in the air?
I wish it was that. It's actually a little tough. I remember a test that we had to do was they gave us the conditions in a mountain. We had to draw on the mountain where the snow line would be. So it wasn't exactly. It wasn't exactly like what partly cloudy means. It was like legit weather stuff.
Did you finally learn what ground clutter was? Louis Kazar had a whole thing about that. He said, I was so excited when they finally came out with that Doppler radar and there was all this green stuff. And then the weatherman said, don't mind that. That's just ground clutter. And I was so disappointed. All right, we got to get to your roster countdown.
So can they tell? It just looks green. How do they tell the difference between the rain and the ground clutter? But anyway, right. Jam Miller, we could have done the whole show on Jam. Jam Miller's 16th best player on this team in my rankings. I think in some ways I've ranked him too high based on what he's done to date. I think in other ways I've ranked him too low on what I sort of expect to see from him this fall. I'm being harsh. I hope Jam's listening. I hope so. No, actually, I hope he's not. Because I'm kind of harsh when I say the Jam we've seen so far hasn't been good enough. And maybe that's not all his fault. Maybe that's the scheme last year. Maybe some of it's the blocking. Maybe some of it was he's playing maybe a little bit before he's ready. Maybe he's been banged up. I'm not saying it's Jam's fault. I'm just saying the Jam we've seen so far has the lowest average yard per carry of any Saban era back for a starting running back. And that's what I mean by it's not good enough. Now, does that mean it's been terrible? Does that mean it's been bad? Does this mean I'm down on Jam? It's actually the opposite. I'm actually very high on Jam Miller because I'm confident that we're going to see a better Jam and a better scheme, a healthier Jam Miller behind a better offensive line and a better thought out scheme with Ryan Grubb directing the thing. And I think Jam's going to be great. I'm excited about him. If anything, I probably have him too low at 16, but I do have him at 16 because his career yard per carry number, which by the way is 5 yards a carry, 5.0. That's the career number. It sounds like that's the worst of the Saban era. It is for a starting running back. Show how many freak backs we've had since 2008. It's unbelievable. But I'm excited about Jam. I think he's going to have a big year. I also think the NFL thinks more of him than some fans might believe. If you watch Jam on a per snap basis doing NFL type things, he's pretty good. I mean, to me,
he's got good hands. I mean, he's got good hands. I don't know about him being a great receiver, but he's got good hands.
Oh, that catch against Georgia last year for the touchdown when he basically the ball had to,
like everybody else in the Georgia game. He had 2.5, 2 3/4 of great play.
Yep.
And then he had some times in there, just like the rest of them, where everybody sort of went to sleep. Yep. And I think the best thing I can say about Jim, I don't know about the best thing, but the thing I can say about Jim Miller is what he's given us can't lead us to a title, but we can win a title with him.
Yeah.
You know, now I don't think he can, you can't ride his back to a national championship. I just don't think that.
Yeah.
Now, somebody may say,
not the Jam we've seen so far.
Can you do that with,
Not the Jam we've seen so far. He's not 180 yards on 20 carries. I don't see it. And he hasn't been that guy yet.
And it's also fair to say this. If Jam Miller were at, say, Tennessee, and you and I were about to do a Tennessee preview the week before, and we brought up, well, what about Tennessee's running game? We'd go, well, it's good. It's not great. He's a good back.
He's a good SEC back.
And so I feel disingenuous coming on here and saying, lauding with praise.
Everyone's got one of those.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone's got one of those.
In this league. Yeah.
In this league. And I want him to be exceptional. I think he can be, because at times I've thought, wow, he's really good. I know from inside the program that there's some coaches really super high on Jam Miller. I'm just saying the Jam we've seen so far over 3 years that averages 5.0 yards per carry, it's been good. You're an SEC back. You're a good player. That's why you're still a starter. You're good. At Alabama, we need you to be great. So we need a step forward in his last year. Like today, if they held the NFL draft today, I feel Jam's drafted. I would bet money he's 100%. He's a day 3 pick, like around where Jace McClellan went, round 5, somewhere in there. I think you're better than that. I think Jam's better than that. I want to see him become a day 2 pick this fall. I would love that. Jam becoming a day 2 pick, not a day 1 pick. I mean, I know the kid would like to do that, but that's just being too much. Day 2 pick, even round 3, exceptional back. And it's crazy, the running back position. I looked up today just because I was looking this up about Javari Bennett, the running backs coming to Alabama now, that on Rivals ranks as the 26th best back. So I got to thinking, 26th best back, that doesn't sound great, but you know what? So I did some Googling. You know how many running backs were selected in the draft in April? 26. 26. So maybe the 26th back.
And that's Jam's number.
Isn't so terrible? Because you actually
draft.
It is Jam's number. How about that?
Now
there you go.
One more thing I was going to say about it. We're not, at least I'm not saying Jam has to average 6 yards a carry or anything like that. I'm saying if Jam will just do the things he did really well last year, even if he plays less, that to me is great.
Meaning, more consistently.
I don't want him out there. We had him out there a lot last year, and I think I would like him out there a little less. But when he's out there, if he'll do some stuff like give me that block. I mean, we had a malfunction here at headquarters. I know y'all are shocked, but bottom line, like that block he had against Georgia last year, when he made a monster block on a run that I think he scored a touchdown on. It was on 4th down, if I remember right. And if he'll give us that 10 times a game instead of being out there for 25 plays or 30 plays, that's marvelous.
He picks up the blitz well too. He as a young player struggled with that, but he's turned into really good. He's really good at picking up the blitz. He can catch the ball. He knows what he's doing. I think there's some toughness. He can run inside. He can run outside. I like Jam. I think he's going to have a really good year. I just admit, I think you said it perfectly. If Jam played for Tennessee or LSU or Georgia, we wouldn't freak out over the back
No.
we have to face. We would just be going, yeah, he's good because Tennessee's always going to have a good back, but he's not great. It's not somebody that we would fear. And I do think Jam is capable of being that good. I've seen flashes of Jam be like, wow. I mean, I've watched him play and go, wow. There just needs to be more wow and less play failed to gain, 1 yard gain, 2 yard gain. And again, a lot of that could be scheme. A lot of it could have been Jalen Milroe and all the quarterback keeps and running backs just couldn't get in a rhythm because the quarterback kept the ball a lot. On the other hand, it's kind of hard to fault that because Jalen was extremely productive keeping the ball. So,
all right, one last thing. What's your favorite song that has Jam in the title? I can only think of two right off the top of my head, but
you may be too ahead of me then.
Well, Michael Jackson's Jam, which was, it was a banger back in the day.
Oh yeah,
but the best Jam song ever is "Jam on It" by Nucleus.
Jam,
and y'all may not know that song.
I wanted to say "Jam on It," but I couldn't get it to play in my head. I want to say, hey, there's a jam on it.
Come to town to see who he could rock. You don't remember all that, man? Jam on It was. Look,
I remember
probably
the title.
Fifth song I downloaded when I got Napster for the first time.
Oh, wow. Look at you illegally downloading music and stealing money from musicians.
And for those who are like, Luke, you're not good with computers. I did Napster 5 years ago. All right. That's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.